Everyone, I'm Tammy. I'm the Siberian Wind. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you for coming to hang out with me tonight. I greatly appreciate it. This is another episode of our After Sunset Sundays. On After Sunset Sundays, we just kind of hang out and work on whatever has come up. If you were following along with me earlier today, we were working on the here's the angle quilt. If you were following along with that, those cheat sheets are in the comments, so you guys can go check that out and it will be there for you. I see I've got two different Judys in the chat, so welcome to both of you. Thank you. And I've got Joyce in the chat as well. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. So what we're going to work on tonight is I am still working on getting my clients' quilt blocks accurate the way that I want them to be. Laura has joined the chat. Welcome in, Laura. Glad you are here. So for my client's quilt, I did go into EQ. Chloe has joined the chat. Dawn has joined the chat. Well, welcome in, Dawn. You're going to get to see a little bit about what's going on tonight. So for my client quilt, I did go into EQ and I've used some standard blocks. The challenge when you use EQ's blocks is if your sewing is not exactly where EQ thinks it should be, because EQ is a computer program. Sometimes your blocks don't have any give room. They don't have any little wiggle room or whatever to have, that one thread off. They're not designed to have one thread off. And in order to make a quilt successfully and easily, I personally find it's better anytime I use an EQ pattern to test my blocks with scrap fabrics, sample fabric, whatever, so that I can test it out and make sure I can sew it the way EQ says it should come out. So I have my block, I have my printout from EQ, and so we are doing test 3 and 4 tonight to make sure that those come out the correct way. Joy says, I haven't been able to do the pattern, had vertigo really bad, so wasn't able to cut fabric or anything. Oh no, Joyce, that's rough. That is very rough. Definitely take some time to get over vertigo. That is not any fun. I can tell you a funny about having vertigo. I had vertigo in high school. I could not walk down the hall and walk a straight line. So I would walk and I would literally hit the lockers, and then I'd keep walking and I would hit the wall, and I would go back and forth the whole way down the hallway. And it was challenging, and they didn't know what was causing my vertigo. Well, fast forward, I did get over it enough to be able to go off to college, and when I was pregnant with my son, I ended up with vertigo again, and I went into work, and I'm walking all over the place. I mean, I'm as sober as can be, but I'm literally walking just wherever, my vertigo takes me. I actually got sent home because they said that I had to be drunk, because there was no way that I was walking like that and not drunk. So I feel for you with the vertigo. Definitely rotary cutters and sewing machines are two things you should not be operating if you cannot see straight or if you are dizzy in any shape, form, fashion. I completely understand. So please do not do yourself harm. Please don't. Judy is saying, Tammy, I do the same thing with my EQ pattern. Sometimes the blocks are off a little or a lot. Yeah, so the first one that I did, welcome in, Kathy. Kathy with My Hobby Home is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me make sure, I think I have it running. I don't. Give me a second. I'm going to start Nightbot. And you should be able to do exclamation selfie in the chat. Kathy, if you would like. And you guys can go check out Kathy's channel. She's got a lot of fun content on her channel. I really enjoy watching her content. She's not, she's not up here in, Wyoming with us, but that's okay. We'll give her a pass. She's in Louisiana, and she sounds like it. And I miss that accent so much. So I love watching you and listening to you, Kathy. So it's good. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. All right, there we go. There's her channel. So you guys can go check out Kathy's channel as well. All right. So this is the block for my client's quilt. And I've got it colored in. It is not accurate for my client's colors. It's pretty close, but it is not 100% accurate. So it is coming up as Default Mosaic is the name of the block. So if you go looking in EQ for this block, the name of it is Default Mosaic. I don't know if you can search it by the name. I have never really tried. But so like one of the measurements that they have you cut is 2 3/4. Okay, that I can cut. 1 13/16. I can estimate where to cut that one. And then 4 15/16. So they're kind of really odd numbers to try to cut. So I have rounded them up, and on my test block, my second test block, things just didn't come out quite the way I wanted. So I've cut things a little oversized, and we're going to trim down today. Judy is saying, Joyce, I understand vertigo. Had it all day Friday and Saturday. Oh gosh, you ladies. That is rough. That is so rough. I do not, I feel bad for you guys because that is awesome. That is awful to have to go through. Kathy says, love the half square triangles. Those seem to be my favorite because all my favorite patterns have them. See, I used to hate them. I used to hate half square triangles with a passion because to me, it felt like I wasn't getting anything done. Like I was just spending so much time sewing, cutting, pressing, and then trimming that I was never getting any progress made. But now that I kind of am past that hiccup with it, I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting into my groove with them. So I appreciate that, Kathy. I love that comment. Joy says, I've had for a week. It's because I fell and messed up my neck. Oh no. Not cool. Not cool. You're not supposed to be falling. Kathy says, medicine is her friend for vertigo. I did not get any luck having medicine for my vertigo as a teenager. They really couldn't find anything that worked successfully. And that should have been my first clue that I was going to have major health problems in my adult years, is because they couldn't figure me out as a teenager either. The trim lock works wonderful for the half square triangles. I bet it does. I've thought about getting one, either the trim lock or the block lock. And I just have not bothered yet. It's just, I don't know why I haven't bothered, but I haven't bothered yet. And I did take my diagonal seam tape off my machine, so I'm having to draw my lines for tonight. Chloe says, that is really tough, Joyce. I hope your neck feels better soon. I agree. Mine too. Messaged my doctor, and she sent me some to the pharmacy. Ooh, okay. So I might have to hit my doctors up and go, hey, look, when this happens again, you guys just need to put it in my records. Get me something. Hope you get better, Judy. And Joyce says, Kathy, yes. Many fast healing wishes for both of you. It is no fun to be dizzy. My much better today. Just hope it doesn't come back. Yes, agreed. Very much agreed. My biggest problems right now, thankfully, is not vertigo. But I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were like, well, if you couldn't do this anymore, what would you do? I said, as long as I still have my hearing and my ability to use my hands, I can still do this. It might not be the same level that I'm currently at, but I would still be able to do it. Glenda has joined the chat. Welcome in, Glenda. Thank you for being here, sweetie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, if I did not have, I could function without my sight. I could function without my legs. But my biggest struggles would be if I had to give up my hands, or give up my hearing, or give up my hearing, because I could sit there and listen to music, and I would be much, much better off. Rob is here. He says, hello again, Tammy and quilting friends. Welcome in, Rob. He is quilting in the man cave. Extend the same offer to you that I did to Kathy earlier. Please feel free to drop exclamation selfie in the chat, and that will give all of my subscribers a link to your channel. You guys can go check out Rob's channel. He is a quilter in Florida, and he's got his little man cave going, and he's got some fur babies that hang out with him that we get to see regularly. He's got a lot of exciting content coming up, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but I think you've got some exciting content coming up. Sean checked into my chat earlier when I was live for the tutorial, and he was reminding me, and so I get to remind you guys, this upcoming Saturday, you guys get to check me out over at Sean's channel with the guy who sews. I will be a guest on his channel once again. Super excited about it. He has some kind of questions he's going to ask me, but he hasn't given me a clue yet as to what they're going to be. I just know that they are not, they're not related to Australia, and as far as I know, they're not related to baseball either. So if you guys hear any whisperings about what Sean is going to ask me, please put it in the comments. He said not to be nervous, that it was going to be super easy, but you know me, I'm going to be nervous anyway. Here we go, Rob. Good. Awesome. Yes, Chloe. Absolutely. She said bright and early. Yes, it's very bright and early. I don't know. That's a good question, Kathy. She says, is he going to do food trivia for you? I don't know. It's not supposed to be Australia, so it shouldn't be Australian food. So maybe it's going to be U.S. food. But he knows I don't cook, because that was a conversation we were having. Because I do not cook. All of my friends can tell you, all of my local friends can tell you, I don't cook. Now, I can cook really well when I cook, but I don't choose to cook. That's what we're going to put it as. I do not choose to cook. And I will bring you guys over to the machine after I get these done. He did dessert trivia, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. Ooh. I might have to go watch and see like what all he asked these people, because he could totally ask me the same things that he's already asked other people, and I would have no idea because I have been so far behind. Oh, I've been really far behind, you guys. I really have. I've had so much on my plate. I bet it's an off-the-wall question. He asked Amber yesterday. It was fun. Ooh, off-the-wall question. Okay, yeah, I'll have to go watch the live with Amber. I got up in time to say good morning to him in his chat, in his comments, and accidentally said that it was Becca. Good morning to Sean and Becca. And then I had to go delete my comment because I realized it wasn't Becca. And I don't know, I think it was because she looks kind of like Becca to me. So, all right, you guys, for those, Pam's Handmade is here. She says, hi, Tammy and everyone. Welcome in, Pam. Glad you made it, sweetie. So yeah, if you guys don't know, I have prosopagnosia, and that is face blindness. Glenda says, we'll have to catch the replay because I didn't get up till 9:30. Sorry. No worries, Glenda. Oh, you don't get up till 9:30. Oh, no worries. No worries. I don't normally get up till 9:30 either. So I am pushing the envelope, trying to wake up that early for anything, much less being functional and forming words and sentences. Words and sentences are tough, especially that early in the morning. That is not my normal time of the morning. Let me grab my scissors. Oh, I'm much more of a night owl. My neighbors, however, do not like me being a night owl. And sometimes my dog doesn't either. He's very much determined that I'm in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock. And unfortunately, I don't take my last meds for the night until 10 p.m. usually. So he's becoming accustomed to me being up a little bit later lately. Kathy says I'm the normal early riser, I think, but lately sleep has been my friend. Yes. So now in high school and like junior high and high school, I was the early bird. I was up at 4:30 every morning, and my parents had managed to find this ski type like exercise something or other. It kind of like a treadmill, but it was, just the foot pedals go back and forth, and it was broken, so it didn't actually have the kind of resistance that you're supposed to have on those kinds of devices. So you could turn it on, and I did turn it on. You would turn it on, and it would count how many steps you did, and it would count up the time that you did, but there was no like increasing resistance or making it harder or making it easier or raising it up. Kind of like an elliptical, but there was no round to it. So I'm not sure. Glenda says I used to get up with the chickens. Nordic Trek, that's what I'm thinking of. Yes. I believe it was actually a Nordic Trek brand. But it didn't work like it was supposed to. But that didn't stop teenager me in junior high. I got up every morning at 4:30 and got on that thing. And I was on that for like 30 to 45 minutes every morning. I was going into being cheerleader and trying to do volleyball and all of this other stuff. So I was super active as a teenager. I actually had weight issues even as a young teen, as a preteen. But it wasn't for lack of exercise or lack of activity. It was just genetic. So I did not lose like that baby fat until after high school. And then of course promptly went to college and gained the freshman 15 and 20 and 25 and 30. That kind of deal. So but that was me in junior high and high school. And then when I went to college, I got up every morning and went to the gym. And I was the 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning workout, go back to the dorm, shower before anybody else was even up, and then get to my 8 a.m. class. That worked great until the second semester when my body just crashed hard. Kathy says, to look at me now, you wouldn't know I was a cheerleader, played basketball and volleyball. My body as a cheerleader, thankfully I was in private school. I never would have qualified in public school to become a cheerleader. I played volleyball. We didn't have basketball for girls. So cheerleader and volleyball was the only sports that my school had for us. Pam says I was up naturally at 5 a.m. most of my life. Now that I want to get up early, my body says nope, over 60 has disadvantages. Over 60, also chronic illness. Chronic illness has its disadvantages too. I can vouch for that. I was the early riser until pretty much until my back injury and the onset of fibromyalgia. So I was one of those that got up every morning and worked out and did all of the things and thought I was, doing great. And my body is just now, no, you're not going to do this. Let's see. Joyce said, worked nights in my younger days, but still got up around 5 a.m. Oh, goodness. Yeah, no. I couldn't do the nights and then get up at 5 a.m. Couldn't do that. I did work graveyard when I was in college. Graveyard in college is probably the best time to work graveyard, because I could work graveyard and then get off of work and then go to school and then come home, sleep a few hours, and go do it again. I agree with Glenda. You are a beautiful lady, Kathy. You are very pretty. You all are. Believe it or not. Even if I haven't seen your pictures, you are all beautiful. Okay? Do not ever sell yourself short. You are beautiful even if you don't see it. There's somebody out there who will see it and tell you, even if you can't see it yourself. Laura says, I typically go to bed early because I get up with my husband at 5 a.m. every morning to make his coffee before he starts work. Then I usually try to go for a walk. Oh, that's exciting. That's one way to get up. So when my husband gets up in the morning, he is one of those early riser people. I love it, Rob. You caught me. You caught me. He says, I need an appetizer from time to time. Oh, you caught me. I need an appetizer frequently. Frequently and often. So if I get up at 5:30, I am the one who gets him up. He does not hear his alarm. Even though he can set an alarm, he has hearing loss, and sometimes he will hear his alarm, sometimes he won't. Most of the time he won't. When he was working and I couldn't wake him up, I wasn't physically there to wake him up, he's working away from home or whatever, I would do everything in my power to make sure that he got up. But I would wake up, make sure I got a text from him, and then I could go back to bed. And he does let me go back to bed, but now I can go back to bed a lot easier than I could when he was out working. Joyce says, I had hubby to get off to work, kids up for school. Yes. That will wake you up in a heartbeat. Because then you're always waking up midday going, did I get them off to work on time? Did I get them off to school on time? That's my panic. Chloe says, that's a good plan, Laura. Talking about the go to bed early to get him up. Laura says, I take a nap almost every day in the afternoon. I wish I could. Glenda says, I used to take naps, but I fight them now unless I'm sick. Joyce says, nowadays I have to take a nap, or have to have a nap. I wish I could take naps. You know that I'm sick if I take a nap. If I lay down during the middle of the day, you know that either I'm insanely exhausted, my sewing machine is broken, or that I'm sick. It's one of those three. I do not take a nap during the middle of the day for much of anything now, because if I do, I don't sleep at night. Judy says, I worked nights for about 15 years. Now I go to bed anytime near midnight and will wake up at 5 a.m., then nap at 11 to 12 for about 30 minutes. Now, if I was working, I would probably be able to work for about 2 hours, and then I would have to take a nap because I put everything into what I do for work. And so I would have to take a nap after 1 to 2 hours of work, and then I could work again for a little bit and then have to take another nap. I would not make it through a work day anymore. Pam says, my job would frown on naps. Oh, and Kathy says, I'm with you, Pam. Let's see. Rob says, Glenda, I don't always sleep at night due to the heat, so I run out of gas during the day. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's tough. Your housing situation makes it more challenging for you to keep that place cool and all of that during the summer. And living in Florida doesn't help either. Chloe says, I'm the same way. Napping means I am sick or absolutely exhausted. Yeah. Joyce says, I'm 69 years old now, so I get to nap. There you go. You have earned that right. Judy says, with chronic illness, I don't sleep, so I only have naps about an hour at a time. I use my sewing as therapy. It takes my mind off the pain. I won't take pain meds. So I am actually not on pain meds, believe it or not. My pain is always at what normal people would classify an 8. I never go below a maybe 6. I think I get down to a 6 occasionally, but it's so very rare. It is the rarest of the rare. Judy says I work 12 hours. Oh, no. I never did the... Actually, did I? Yeah, I actually did. I did 12 hours when I did graveyard. That's the only time I did 12 hours is when I did graveyard. I could do it overnight because overnight, things kind of calm down a little bit. At least in the tech support industry, they calm down a little bit, so I could get away with it then. So, all right, so I did double of what I need, okay? I did enough for 2 blocks worth, so we're testing this theory out. Kathy says I wasn't sleeping well and haven't for years, but recently my husband and I have been found with high metal toxicity, and we are in detox. I sleep like a baby now all night. Oh my goodness. I've got to find out more about how you guys found out about that. Joy says I won't take meds either for pain. I don't blame you. Glenda says I completely understand. I used to nap a lot, but my body changes with the seasons. Yeah, when you are dealing with high amounts of heat or whatever, it is so much more challenging to make it through. All right, so I am not trimming these up to a specific size just yet. I am just trimming them to trim off the extra. Then we're going to put it together. We're going to put one together, and then we're going to see if I can just trim down what I need. So I'm not trimming to a specific size. This is coming out 2 5/8. So I guess that's what I'm going to trim all these to. Or I'm going to trim 4 of them to. And then we're going to come back and see how this is going to lay out. And see if I'm going to be able to trim it the way I want to. Or see if it's going to be a more difficult operation. Oh, this one's not going to come out 2 5/8. It's going to end up a little short. That's okay. They don't all need to be 2 5/8. We are going to go... If I trim at 2 1/2, they're going to come out to be 4 1/2. That still may not be right. Your doctor can order a test for you. I've been suggested that I might have fibromyalgia, but now I don't have all the pain I did before. See, I've thought about that too, as to whether or not that could be it, and I don't know whether or not they've tested me for that. My rheumatologist that I just saw is actually leaving at the end of the next month or so I won't see him again, so I'll see a new one. So I may bring that up then. Susie has joined the chat. Welcome in, Susie. Glad you are here. When we went to DC, my husband would set off every metal detector we went through. That should have been a clue. Oh my goodness, Kathy. That's crazy. That is so crazy. Alright, so this is going to be just over 2 1/2. So I may trim all the rest of these down to this, maybe. I don't know. We're just going to see how it plays out and see if it's going to line up where it is. Judy says, good for you, Tammy. I have a high pain threshold for pain. Doctors keep pushing pain meds because my SID rates labs are so high. Keeping busy helps so much. Kathy, I have fibromyalgia with other autoimmune. Yes. So I also have other autoimmune. I've got psoriatic arthritis. And that has definitely added a whole new challenge to, trying to figure out what is what. Kathy's saying, Judy, they were saying autoimmune, but we were reversing it now, it appears. That's kind of exciting to be able to reverse something like that. When I first got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I fought that diagnosis. I fought it tooth and nail. It's like there's got to be something else. There's no way that it is fibromyalgia. But I've been dealing with it for over 10 years. And now I've got psoriatic arthritis, and I am the only one in the family with a diagnosis of psoriatic arthritis. Everyone else, if they have any kind of arthritis at all, it is all osteoarthritis. I don't even believe any of them are diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Or if they are, I don't know about that. But I am the only family member with psoriatic arthritis, which is kind of unusual. I did find out one of my second cousins was diagnosed with junior psoriatic arthritis. So I don't know if that kind of runs in the family or something. It's just, that's weird. That's very, very weird. Glenda says, Kathy, that's what I do is set off metal detectors, so I'll ask to be checked unless they put the wrong hardware on my neck. Oh, now that could do it too. Putting the wrong hardware would do it. All right, so we're going to bring you guys over to the machine. So these are all, they're relatively close in size, okay? So what I'm going to make sure that I do is I've got my printout. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my dark triangles are going the correct direction. And I'm going to simply sew them together in this format and we will trim up. Okay, so this is what we're going to try. We're going to see if this works. If not, we'll try the next round. We'll try the next route and see what happens with it. Laura says, I have psoriatic arthritis and so does my son. See, I thought psoriatic arthritis was hereditary or genetic. But considering nobody else in my family has a diagnosis of psoriatic arthritis, again, except a second cousin, which is really, really far removed in my opinion. I mean, it's not a direct link. So I don't know. Judy says, keeping fingers crossed, pattern works. Right. I know there's other people waiting on pins and needles to see how this comes out. So, you know, this is what goes into all of my quilts that I do, especially when I'm being hired to do them and I'm not just testing it or whatever. And even when I do patterns for you guys, I test everything. So you guys, that cut and chiseled, the little table topper, the blue and red table topper, that was my test run to make sure that everything came out the way that I envisioned. So I test everything. So I don't have a lot of orphan blocks yet because I do make something with all of my tests, but it is definitely challenging. Oh, good question, Susie. She's asking Joyce if it is smoky there, and Joyce is saying not too bad. The smoke here has also cleared a little bit. Let's see. My Kathy says it's going to work. We are keeping the faith. There you go. Laura says typically autoimmune disorders do run in families. My mom had psoriasis. See, my dad has psoriasis, but no psoriatic arthritis. It is still smoky there. You're in Worland, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think if I'm not, I'm trying to remember where you're at. Or Joyce is in Okay, which one are you in Worland? I think it's Joyce. And then where are you, Susie? I'm trying to remember. You guys are in Wyoming with me, so I need to remember where you are. The smoke has definitely cleared a lot here. We actually had some rain and thunderstorms yesterday and then again today. My friend in Riverton says it's really bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it being bad closer to Riverton. They're getting it before we do, and then sometime before we get it, I think it clears. That's my understanding so far. I still have to get my State Fair quilt quilted. I have not finished quilting it. That is coming up. I've got just over a week to go. Okay, Joyce is the one in Worland. Gotcha. Because I get to go through Worland soon on my shop hop. So we're going to see. Alright, so the points are lining up beautifully. So even though the rest of this may not work, the points are beautiful. You're at the cabin in Bughorns. Okay, I'll have to look up where that. Oh, Bighorns. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I would have to look that up. You're in northwest. That would make sense. Okay. Yeah. I'm learning my Wyoming landscape. My dad had psoriasis. I have it too. Not as bad as my dad, but it is on my scalp and at the back of my neck. Okay, so mine was never on my scalp. Deb is here. Welcome in, Deb. I did go catch Lisa's channel and got to listen to your laugh. I understand everybody now. Chloe says, perfect pinwheel. Thank you. So I got a cat scratch when I was a teenager. And so we thought it was actually cat scratch fever because I ended up with a patch like right here. And my whole arm looked like I had been burnt on an oven. And then it would go away from here finally for a bit, then come back. Then every time it came back, I would have extra patches all over my hand. So it would look like my hand had literally been put to the fire. Then it started on my other hand. I've had it on both shins. I've now had it on my scalp, but I did not have it on my scalp for a really long time. Kathy's saying, well, everyone, it's 9:30 p.m. here, and 4:30 a.m. comes early. I bet it does. You have a good evening, Kathy. Thank you for being here, lady. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Sleep well. Sleep well. You will need it for tomorrow. I don't know what you got going on tomorrow, but you will need it for tomorrow. That's my phrase. You'll need that sleep for tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to move my cutting mat out of the way for just a second. Let me bring you guys back over. I'm not doing the longer transitions right now. I just want to try to see if I can get some of this done. All right, so I rotate my seams on these pinwheels. I intentionally press to the dark side, and then I'm going to intentionally press my seams so that they rotate and they spin and they turn flat here in the center. So if you guys have never done this before, what you're doing is you're coming in here and you are just picking out a stitch or two. You're just picking out the stitches that are in the seam allowance that are preventing your pieces from separating enough to lay flat. Okay. What do you take or use for your psoriasis? I actually haven't had any luck with anything. They have given me all kinds of different creams. The most recent time that I had something was in late 2022 when they tried to give me something for it. Steroid creams don't work on me. The only thing that they managed to do for me that did anything was giving me steroid, like dose pack, like a Z pack or something like that, whatever it's called. That would work. So that's the only thing that worked for my psoriasis. All right, so that pinwheel is laying perfectly flat on the back side. So it's coming out beautifully on the top side. So now we get to see how I did. All right, and because this is a hot surface now, I'm going to add an extra layer of protection, a little spinner piece to my cutting mat. And we are going to see if this is coming out the way that we want it to. And I already have my rotary cutter open. I didn't mean to, but I do. So get those extra threads out of the way. All right, so I'm trying to get this, I don't know what size I'm trying to get this to be. It's coming up just over 4.5. And when I was joining these next pieces, they had you cut it at 6.5. No, wait. No, they didn't. They did not have you cut it at 6.5. They had you cutting it at 4 15/16, so that would be 5 inches. And so with that little bit of hangover, that would work. So with 4.5, I'm going to trim this to 2 1/4, or I'm going to put the 2 1/4 here in the center. Medrol dose pack. That sounds familiar. That sounds right. I have neurodermatitis and it's very painful when I have a breakout. I bet it is, Glenda. Just the name of it sounds painful. I have not had, thankfully, knock on wood, whatever surface I need to find that is close enough to wood. Knock on wood, I have not had a breakout in a really, really long time. With my weakened immune system and getting the infusions that I'm getting, which are also going to cause a further weakened immune system, I tend to get things that I shouldn't get. So yeah. All right, so this is now trimmed to 4.5. I'm going to make a note on my chart so that I know that the pinwheel is 4.5 is what I'm trimming it to. So if I need to adjust it later, I can adjust it later. But that's what we're going to try. We're going to try it. We're going to see. We're going to see. We're going to test. We're going to love on it and see. All right. So the next piece is going to be adding these triangles here. And these were the ones that were cut, supposed to be 4 15/16. I cut them at 5 so that I have a little bit of give room. So that's what we're going to put on there. Chloe says, that sounds very painful, Glenda. Prayers for no breakouts? Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Prayers, absolute prayers for no breakouts. Somebody the other day was commenting about having a shingles outbreak. And I know those are painful as well. They had you on gabapentin, 800 milligrams, but I stopped taking it because it kept me high as a kite. Yes, gabapentin will do that. I was on gabapentin for a while, and I actually ended up, one thing they did not know or tell me is that it has impacts on serotonin levels. And, you know, that didn't mean anything to me for the longest. But anything that has impacts on serotonin levels, I am no longer allowed to take. Having serotonin syndrome will do that to you. It's not a pleasant experience. I'm very thankful that I was able to get help and get past it. But I did have to detox off of gabapentin and the other medications I was on that were contributing to the serotonin syndrome. So I tell doctors now, you know, no SSRI medications or no medications with serotonin impacts. And they kind of look at me funny. And then I say serotonin syndrome. And half of them know what I'm talking about. And the half that don't, I explain it to them. Pam says, GABA is awful. I was on it for 5 days and was like, no, it made me so damn crabby. Gabapentin is a terrible drug. So I will agree and disagree. So my late brother-in-law ended up having to take gabapentin. And gabapentin did a fantastic job of helping him not feel all of the pain he had been feeling. So although I wouldn't recommend that anybody on gabapentin, you know, maintain a driver's license and all of this other stuff, because that was a really bad combination, let me just tell you. It did actually help him. I would not take it ever again. Serotonin syndrome is no joke. You are absolutely right. G says I use betamethasone lotion. I haven't tried that before, I don't think. Don't quote me, but I don't think I have. Susie says my dog is on gabapentin. Really helps her pain and anxiety. Yes, it does. It is great for things like that. I think why gabapentin has such a really bad rap is because it is probably, and this is me not being in the medical profession, it is probably overprescribed, is my thought. Not saying that everybody who's on it needs to be off of it, because for some people it helps. And I've been asked to go back on it, and I've refused. So, you know, I basically said, look, serotonin impacts, can't do it. They want you back on it and can only imagine what I told them, says Glenda. Yeah. I would have loved to be the fly on the wall for that one. Absolutely would have loved that. Because no, they are not putting me back on it either. Not if I'm conscious. Overprescribed and highly abused. Probably. The medical profession has made a killing in prescribing medications that are highly addictive and changing from the highly addictive medications to ones that are not as addictive, but have the same kind of effects on the human brain. That's where medicine is right now, in my opinion. I don't believe that gabapentin is the correct drug for me. And thankfully, I have not had to fight really hard with my doctors about it. It's not been a major issue. But if it were, you better believe I will be fighting it. All right, so I've got the 2 triangles on there. So now we are going to add the next triangles. Okay, so there's 2 ways that you could do. Oh, wow, Chloe. She says, I know as I work in a psych hospital. Yes, you would definitely know. You would know. All right, so when you're adding these triangles to a center block and you have a center point, or if you don't have a center point, you can always fold this in half to find your centers. So you can fold it in half this way to find your centers on these sides, fold it in half these ways to find your centers on these sides. You can take and fold your triangles in half and press and find a center. Okay, you can do that way. Or what I am doing is I am using, because my pinwheel came out so beautifully, I am lining up my point with a line on my pinwheel. So when I come over here to add this other triangle, what I will do is I will lift this one up out of the way, and I will use that and this straight edge to line up my next pinwheel. Okay? Joyce says, I'm so thankful my doctor finds other solutions other than pain medication. Yes. I told my doctor, I was like, look, if that's, really our last option, I'd like to try physical therapy first, see what other things that we can try and see if we can figure out another option. I have been in physical therapy ongoing for the last 5 months. Like I've been in physical therapy for a really long time. And we're finally finding some options that I can do at home, or that I could get equipment for to do at home that will help some of my pain levels. It's not a cure-all and a be-all and end-all. It's not going to do anything to cure anything. But it is going to give me back a little bit of quality of life. And so that's what I'm in physical therapy for. They have been helping me maintain my quality of life through massage. But again, we're trying to find ways to bring that home in a way that I can do at home. But that's what I've been doing lately, is I've been in physical therapy, just trying to find some kind of happy medium. Let's see. I hope if they put me in one, they send me where you are. Oh, Glenda, I agree. I'd want to go where somebody knows me. I've been in a psych hospital before as a patient, and I would rather go where somebody knows me. Joy says that she's been doing PT the last couple of months. Yes. Yeah, Chloe, I agree. She says, I agree, Joyce, but it can be difficult to find the alternate solutions. Yes. It definitely can be. And sometimes there's just not a doctor who's willing to do that. Sometimes you get lucky and you've got a doctor that does and is willing to do it from the get-go. And sometimes you don't get so lucky. So yeah, it's one of those. All right, so now this block should be, I want to say 6 inches. The next pieces that we're going to go on there are supposed to be cut 6.5. So this finished block is supposed to be 8 inches. So we are just over 6 inches right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this to 6 inches. and we're going to see how that works. So with trimming to 6 inches, the nice thing is all you have to do is line up your center line at the 3-inch mark and line up your center line here at the 3-inch mark. And because this is a pinwheel in the center, my 45 degree is lining up here as well. So that's what I'm going to cut it at. And so we're going to end up with a nice clean block to put our next steps onto. Joy says that she also went through a pain management program years ago, so I use that also. Yes. And I will say I've been through pain management as well. The pain management doctors kind of look at me though now. They're like, well, what can we do for you? Because there's not much that they can prescribe. So I kind of strike out with pain management just because they have run out of options for me. All of the options that they have for me are those really radical, invasive options. Oh, let's see. Glenda says, I very seldom take anything for pain as I've learned to deal with it as best as I can. And that's kind of how I am as well. I can't take ibuprofen, but I can take Tylenol. And I know kind of what dosing I have to use and how often I can repeat that dosing. So like I know some of the options of what I can do. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like there's really no other options. All right, so here is the 6-inch block. So that is now trimmed up. Our next pieces that are going to go on, the software said to cut these 6.5 inches, and I have cut them longer. I've cut them at, I think, 7.5. And I did that intentionally because last time my points kind of cut off a little bit. And so I'm trying to avoid that. So I may go ahead and sew these. I'm going to sew them centered. I'm going to sew the opposite sides on. And then I will come back and sew the opposite sides on again. Okay. Judy says, looks great, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you. It has been fun trying to get here with this. It's kind of exciting to try a new block. And especially when you start having like any kind of issues with a block like this, it's real fun to take it apart and break it down and find a way to make it work. So let me bring you guys back over to the machine with me. There we go. I'm expecting to have to click an extra button. I normally have this set up where I have to click like 2 buttons to get everything swapped over, but I don't have it set up that way tonight. So when I stumble or stutter when I'm changing screens, that is why. I set it up for fast change tonight, and my brain is not doing fast change. The software is doing fast change for me, but my brain is still not doing it. All right. So we're just going to trim off the extra. Again, this is a test block so that I could figure out exactly what I did and did not need. So that's what we're going with. And if the block really needed to be 6.5 inches, or these pieces needed to be 6.5 inches, then I can trim that or trim these to that without too much fuss. You know, this is scrap fabric. This is intentionally extra fabric. I'm not needing this fabric for any other project. This is just going for these test runs until I am 100% happy with the way that it's coming out. So making sure, because I felt my seam kind of flip for me for a second there in my pinwheel. So I was making sure to stop. All right, so here's what we're sitting at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and press these, and I am actually going to press my seams out. So these seams up here are going to press under, okay? So I'm going to press those out, and then we're going to grab the next pieces and do the same thing. We're going to put those on, and then I will trim it down because all we have left after this is snowballing the corners. And I think that's going to be the most exciting part of this because the corners aren't where you think they are. The corners are definitely not where you think they are. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold these in half. And we will not have as much waste. I will not have as much waste on my client's actual fabric. So don't panic about that. The whole point of doing it this way right now is to see where my cut lines actually are. And if I need to take this block apart and measure everything, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Glenda says pinwheels is one of my favorite blocks. I used to love doing them. And it's not that I don't like doing them now, but I think I've kind of moved on to just the regular half square triangles and not doing pinwheels all the time. I did a quilt that had a lot of pinwheels in it. It was a mystery quilt, so I didn't know that's what I was getting into. And I think I'm done. But that's okay. That's okay. This is not for me. This is not a quilt that, I'm making because I need to make it. This is one that was requested, and that is perfectly fine. That makes doing pinwheels a lot easier. All right, I have an extra thread hanging around. Chloe is saying, I love pinwheels too. Pinwheels are a lot of fun. I just feel like once you get done with a pinwheel, you don't have a whole bunch of extra, things that you can do with it. I kind of feel stuck. So I guess that's why I'm at the half square triangles point. I really want to get back to the flying geese point. I really love flying geese, and I really feel like I need to perfect it a little bit more. So I'm kind of right there. Like that's kind of where I'm at. I'm transitioning. I'm going to be transitioning back to flying geese a little bit. Laura says finding the right doctor is key to managing chronic illness. My doctor is amazing and works with me to find the right solutions to handle my fibromyalgia, psoriatic arthritis, and chronic migraines. Yes, those are 3 of my conditions. You have got them labeled. Yeah, it definitely is down to finding the right doctor. My problem right now is that doctors here in Wyoming are fleeting. I'm now about to be on my 3rd rheumatologist because none of them can handle the wind long enough to come hang out and stay in the state. They like the people, they like the environment, they like the culture, but they hate the wind. And you can't get them past the wind. Laura says, I love pinwheels. Glenda says, I love the way you make that block look. We'll have to try it in the near future. Absolutely. And once I've got it down pat and we've got this set, then I can actually issue the correct instructions and not the EQ instructions. And I'll make it super simple. So I already have the plan for what, let's see, this is July. So the next tutorial series is in September. I already know what I'm doing in September. I have a baby quilt that is coming up, and it is a pattern that I've used for the other 2 children. So it is the same pattern, it's just going to be different colors for this newest child. So I can't really vary a whole lot. So I kind of have to stick with what I've been working with. All right. So let me bring you guys over. Deb is saying, good night, ladies. Sleep well. Absolutely, Deb. Thank you for hanging out with us. Laura says, I've had the same doctor going on 17 years. I wish I could say the same. Awesome. Can't wait. Love your tutorial, says Judy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that I'm able to make it easy for you guys. I love being able to do that. All right. So here is where we're at. Okay. However, so this is covering the whole of the 8 inches. So this outside edge that you see on the mat right here is the outline of a 10-inch square. This light blue here is the outline of a 9-inch, no, that's an 8-inch square, I believe. Yeah, 8-inch square. About to say, I was like, wait a minute, here's my 9, where's my 8? There's my 8. So this is the outline of the 8. Susie is saying falling asleep, so going to say goodnight. Absolutely, Susie. Thank you for hanging out for as long as you did. I appreciate it. I know that staying up this late is tough, no matter what time zone you are in. So I am never going to be offended, you guys. I just appreciate you hanging out for as long as you make it. All right, so we are not going to leave it like that. The finished block is put on point. So the pinwheel is actually going to be straight, not on point like it is right now. So we have got to rotate this block. Okay? So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be adding our little triangle pieces to this outside edge. And then when we fold these back over, we want this finished block to be 8 inches because it's going to finish 7.5 in the quilt. Okay, so I've got a little bit of extra room here, quite a bit of extra room actually. So I'm going to line these up with my 8-inch, and this is kind of how I figure out where I need to do some finagling and figure out what the heck I need to do to fix this the way that it looks the best. Okay, so all of these need to come in like 2 inches probably, and I've got like these bottom 2 here, or top 2 on the camera. These top 2 are giving like the 2 inches area, but these top are only getting just over an inch here and an inch there. So this block is going to have to move this way just a bit. And so we are going to trim up this block to get this a little bit more to where it needs to be. So these are supposed to be cut 1 and 13/16. Rob says, I think it might be cool enough to try and sleep. Good night, everyone. Have a blessed night. Hope to see everyone again soon. Absolutely, Rob. Thank you for hanging out, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right, so 1 and 13/16, that is over half. That is over 1.5. Because 8 would be half. So we have about probably 1/2 inch that we can cut off at this point, is what I am estimating. Because everywhere that I've got it lined up, we're going to try cutting off 1/4 inch. And we're going to see how the 1/4 inch works. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to come in and trim off 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. And this is why this is a test block. Okay? This is why I do test blocks. Because if I want to fix something and I want to fix it the way I want it fixed, this is the easiest way to do that. Okay. Moldy Lasagna KD9YMA. She says, first time catching a live. I'm awake. Congratulations. Welcome in, Moldy. What should I call you? Would you like to go by a different name other than Moldy? Or do you like to go by Moldy Lasagna? What should I call you? I will be more than happy to choose whatever name you like. But welcome in. It's the first time I think I've seen you in my chat. She's saying hello all. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. I have to say, it's a very unique name. I don't think I've seen that name anywhere in any of the chats before. So I'm very glad you were able to make it tonight. All right, let's see. This is a little over 1/4 inch at one point, but that's okay because I'm trying to also square this. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to try again, and I'm going to rotate this the 45-degree angle, and we're going to see how this is laying out. Let me close my rotary cutter so I don't cause myself an injury. All right, this is fairly good. This is just over 2 inches for each of these triangles that I'm going to be putting on, so that is good. Okay, so Sean says everyone calls me Moldy. Well, welcome in, Moldy. I can call you Moldy or I can call you Sean. Just be aware I may do them interchangeably, okay? So if I say welcome in, Sean, I will introduce that you are Moldy. And if I don't, then I'll just introduce you as Moldy. That's what we'll do. That is how I roll. I remember names. I'm very good at names. Almost everybody here can tell you that names are kind of my thing. I don't remember faces, but I do remember names. All right, so I am going to end up with a little bit cut off of each of these, but I think I can work with this because then that means I cut these at 1 3/4, so that I can make that adjustment for. And we are going to cut it probably at that. All right, so I'm making my adjustments there. All right, so I'm going to flip these triangles over, and I'm going to use the midpoint of my pinwheel to line these up. Now, if you want to pin these, you absolutely can when you're doing something like this. I used to do a lot of pinning. I've grown up. Chloe says that looks hard. It is not actually that hard. It's actually easier if I do it at the machine, but you guys can't see it as well over at the machine. So all I'm doing is I'm making sure that this little point at the top of my triangle is pointing to the very center of my pinwheel, and it's just lining up along these seam lines. And then I'm just making sure that the other edge of the triangle is lining up against the edge, and that's all there is to it. So I'm going to take this over, and we are going to sew this. And then we'll do all the extra trimming down. Sean says, I've watched many of your vids. I like your style. I'm a regular on Sean, the guy who sews, Handmade with Donna, and many others. Yay! I love all of them. I haven't caught a lot of any of their videos lately. If you've seen some of my recent ones, you will know that I have been kind of inundated and swamped. I have kind of started clearing my calendar. I should have more information on my upcoming schedule for the rest of the year. I'm hoping by Tuesday. That's my goal right now. We'll put it that way. We will put it that way. It has been a couple of months. Being able to take this client quilts and get started on it has kind of been a blessing. I have been ready to start with a new project. Definitely ready to start with a new project. So I do have the temperature quilts. I will be working on the rest of the planning for that throughout the rest of the year. So that will be an ongoing project with an expected completion date of December 1st, if not a little bit before then, because I'm going to need to have a little bit of time to make sure I get everything in line so that the pattern can be printed. So you guys, that pattern should be available, I'm hoping, before January 1st. So if you are starting your Christmas wish list, please put, if you are looking forward to doing the temperature quilt, the double wedding ring temperature quilt program, or the project, please put that on your Christmas wish list. And again, I don't know exactly when it's going to be available. I've got to get it done first so that I have product images to shoot for you guys. And then I can have all of the instructions ironed out because I know what I'm looking for, and I know, and part of the reason I haven't hired any project testers for this one is because it is such a massive project. It is a year-long project for a reason, and I've not been working on it all year, so I am behind on my own project, but it is a year-long project because it is going to take that much sewing to do, but it is well worth doing. Alright, so I have sewn these points on, and using that center pinwheel as your placement when you do something like this is going to give you a straight line to follow for when you trim this block down. So let me grab the cutting mat back up here. I don't know why I thought it was a great idea to take it down, but I apparently did. It's after sunset. It's a Sunday. It's allowed, right? That's what we're going with. It's allowed on after sunset Sundays. All right, so I'm going to take my finger and press it in the middle of my block and kind of go to line this up. And it is lining up right at the 8-inch mark. So I actually could have not trimmed off as much and I should have been okay. But this is okay as well. Judy says, Tammy, I will test it for you if you need someone. I have tons of fabric. Oh, you won't need tons of fabric necessarily. You just need tons of time. That is the one caveat to the temperature quilt. It is a little bit of a beast because you are sewing. You do need tons of fabric. I will say that. You do need tons of fabric. But it's more that you need the tons of time to sew it because it is paper piecing. Oh, Susie is going to bed, I believe. Judy is saying night to Susie. Good night to Susie or Judy if you're leaving. Whichever one is going. Good night to you. Good night. Good night. I apologize. I wasn't trying to miss anything. I will have projects in the future that I do offer out to test. The temperature quilt is just not one that I feel like is going to be easy enough for me to write enough to test. Because a lot of it is you're gonna have to test you have to test a small part of it, make sure that that works, then test the next part, make sure that that works. Like, I'm not to that point yet. If I were to issue it out for testing, it would not be until October. And realistically, you would have October, November, you would have 2 months to test. Judy says that she's still here with me. Yay! Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Yeah, so it would be 6 weeks to test it. And it is far too much sewing for 6 weeks of testing. It's far too much sewing. All right, so verdict with this is still coming up short, so I should not have trimmed these down. So that is my bad. It is not coming up the size that I wanted it to be. So that is, yeah, it did not come out the way that I'd hoped. All right, so we can now mark this one as a fail because it is not the size that I want it to be. Now, I'm not throwing these out. They are going to go into the, anything that I can cut an inch square out of, yep. Anything that I can't cut an inch square out of is going towards dog beds. It's not going towards my scraps. But yeah, if I can cut a 1 inch square, yeah, it's getting saved. It is absolutely getting saved. All right, so this is not a full 8 inches square. Glenda, I love it. She's like, you know how she is, Chloe. I would. So this is not, it's not off by much. It really is not. But it's off enough that I feel like I would struggle to make it work. Like, I would have to consciously sit and think every time I pick up one of these blocks, how close to 8 inches is it? Okay? So this is still a fail. But that is why we have a whole nother set. That's why I went ahead and pulled out a whole nother set. So I knew I was going to try to trim these for the first one, and so this next one I'm not going to trim those. That was, I think, where this block went sideways. So that's what we're going to not do this time. That is the next step. So I did trim this down a little bit before, once we figured it out. So I am going to go just over 2.5, and that's just what these are going to be. Is just over 2.5, and that's what they're going to get cut to. So there's that cut, and I only have a few more of these to go. And so all of these blocks that I'm doing, so this is, It is getting closer. You're right, Judy. It absolutely is. Every time I do this block, it is getting a little bit closer to what I want, and it's becoming a little bit more predictable. So what I might actually do going forward is, these are not coming out to an easy measurable cut size. So what I might do is, my next set of squares going forward, I may cut them just a hair bigger. That way I have an easy to measure cut size. So I don't have to go, okay, just a little over 2.5. Like, I don't have to do that kind of thinking, because I'm going to be doing, oh gosh, I think it's 57 full blocks for the main quilt, and I have not counted the ones for the half size quilt. So I'm going to have, probably, by the time everything is said and done, 100 blocks worth of all of these different pinwheel blocks. And when you are cutting 4 half square triangle units to go into a pinwheel block, and you've got over 100, you're looking at 400 pieces. So just for the sheer cutting value of it, I may trim them just a hair larger. Sean says, I'm working on some sunbonnet Sues. I'll be listening and looking over my shoulder watching. Perfect. My sunbonnet Sue quilt is actually in the closet right now. Slowly but surely, she is getting ripped apart. I'm not happy with the quilting. The quilting was done years and years ago, but it was not done properly. I did it. I did it. It was my fault. But the quilting wasn't done properly, and some of the sunbonnets need some repair. So when friends are wanting to just have an easy day and just rip things for me, that is what I bring them. I go, here, have this quilt. Just rip the seams out, or rip the quilting stitches out. And so that's what they do. They will sit there if they just want to spend the day ripping things. I have a Sunbonnet Sue quilt that they're ripping quilting stitches for me, so I can re-quilt it in a way that I'm happy. Because I'm definitely not happy with the way that it is right now. So it needs to be redone. Let's see. Judy says, oh, Sean, I love Sunbonnet Sue. I've made 2 for my granddaughters. I loved Sunbonnet Sue until I realized I hated applique. I do applique, so don't hate on me too much. I do applique, and I actually have a massive applique project coming up. Don't ask me when. I haven't set a date for it yet. But, okay. You guys have been following me long enough. Or at least most of you have been following me long enough. You know, I don't pick the simple stuff. If it is simple, if I'm doing it for myself, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing something simple. So if I'm going to, now if I teach you something, if I'm choosing a pattern to teach, like this quilt up here, I choose something so simple. It is super easy to put together. It is super beginner friendly. I want you guys to be able to do whatever I'm teaching you to do. Judy says, Tammy, it is a lot of applique for a quilt. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I love it. At least you're honest. One day I'll have to make a sunbonnet quilt. I have to at least try it. There you go. So I have a friend. She has just started out quilting. Like, what in the world is my thread doing? That is my thread, not my machine. Bear with me, guys. That was some funky stuff. Okay, let's figure this out. I'm just going to rethread, and we're going to see how we go from there. So she has just started out. She finished her first quilt top, you guys. And it's a king size. It's a king size. Go figure. All of us dreamers. It's a king size. So she has just started out quilting. Like, I mean, didn't even have an iron, you guys. I asked her, I said, okay, which way are you pressing your seams? We have to press our seams? Said, it's advisable. Your quilter will like you for it. She's like, oh, well, and so she was at Walmart. I was like, make sure you get an iron. She's like, I finally got one. It's like, good. About time you got an iron. And she just sent me pictures tonight of her new quilting setup. She's so excited about it. She told me, she said, I really want to make a king-size double wedding ring quilt. I said, well, hold off. I've got a pattern coming out in January that will walk you through how to do it. And then you can watch my videos on how to do it. And I will teach you how to do it. Oh, okay, awesome. She has no idea how hard a double wedding ring quilt can be. And that is what is going to make it so easy for her. She has no idea how hard it is, and she's not thinking that it's going to be hard, so I'm not going to tell her it's going to be hard. My Sunbonnet Sue is 53 years old and not perfect by far, because I was only 10 years old when I made it and finally quilted about 4 or 5 years ago. Oh my gosh, Glenda. That is amazing. I love it. I love it. Judy says, to the other Judy, can start off with a small table topper and try it out. There you go. That's the way to do it too. Joyce says, I'm glad I can go back and watch the videos so I know how to make the one you are teaching. Yes, absolutely. I love that I can do that. I made a king-size wedding ring quilt with scalloped edges. It was a ton of work. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But, you don't start a double wedding ring quilt at the whole quilt at all at the same time. You start it one little bit at a time. And, I mean, she doesn't realize that this is going to be a year-long project because it's a tempter quilt. But I'll explain that to her before we get to January. She'll get the notification before then. But yeah, there's just no way. I would not have done a double wedding ring quilt when I was first starting out. But I also kind of knew what I was talking about because I was from the sewing world. I wasn't from the quilting world. I was from the sewing world. And I don't remember which way I went with my seams. If I go that way, which way did I go with my seams, you guys? Yes, I am literally questioning myself. Okay, I know which way I'm going with my seams now. But when I first started out quilting, I did not know how hard pattern designing and creating blocks was going to be. And my ex-husband at the time saw a quilt in a book. He saw a quilt pattern that was a kit in a magazine. I don't know where he saw it, so I can't answer that. I don't know what magazine it was, but it was not a quilting magazine. It was just some random magazine. But there was a quilt kit that you could order. And he loved the colors. He loved everything about the quilt. He wanted that quilt. He wanted me to make him that quilt. Well, I had made one quilt before, so of course I can make that quilt. I never finished that project. We divorced, so there's no reason for me to finish that project. But my blocks were coming out all kinds of wonky sizes. I knew nothing of quilt math. I didn't know what half square triangles were, and it had a lot of star points. No. My daughter wants a double wedding ring quilt. I told her when she gets married, I would make her one. She's 39 years old, and I don't think she'll ever get married. Oh, that's fine. Sorry, I meant Glenda. It's amazing. That is perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Let's see. Fingers crossed. Oh, yeah. For the double wedding ring, yes. See, you might want to make it just to make it at this point. Because you'll have this beautiful pattern, and you've got a great and spectacular instructor who's holding scissors close to her face. You can do all of that. You can hang out and watch and learn how to do it. and, do it as a tempter quilt. And that can be her double wedding ring quilt since she's not getting married. Or since she hadn't decided who she's marrying yet. That's what we can call it. The until you decide quilt. Oh. And there's nothing wrong with waiting until you are 100% happy. All right. So I am just picking out my extras for my seam allowance. My extra stitches. So this is going to go together the same way that the last one did. The main difference is that we are not going to trim. We're going to trim this once it's pressed. But we're not going to trim those strips down. We're going to assemble the triangles onto the strips as they are and see how we do. All right, so I'm spinning my seams here in the middle of my pinwheel and getting that pressed out. And it helps if I press the seams correctly. That's what Sundays are about, right? Sundays are about having fun and just enjoying the time and the quilting and all of this. It is not about being perfect. All right, so this I trimmed last time to 4.5. I made my markings on my sheet so I know exactly where it needs to be trimmed, and it will trim up just perfectly or just barely to 4.5. So yeah, I think I am going to increase the size of those pinwheels just slightly so that I know that I'm going to have that full 4.5. Now I did pre-starch these fabrics this time. The last time I did it, I did not pre-starch. And I ran into a few problems, but I pre-starched this time around. So, we're working with a little bit better chances this time. All right, so the next step is, again, we are going to add our triangles to the outer sides. And again, all I'm going to be doing is lining the center point up with the center points of my pinwheel because they came out pretty good again this time. They're got a shadow, but they're pretty darn good. They're close enough. Unless you are literally counting threads, you're not going to know. All right, let's see. Oh, wow, you guys have been chatting. It took me a month just to cut all the pieces, then 4 months to put the blocks together, working on nothing else. It was gifted to my grandniece at her wedding. I want one for myself at some point. Yes, you need one for yourself, Judy. Her and Nelson have been together for 5 years, and he asks her once a year, and she says, "Ask me next year." Oh, no. She's got to be kinder to him than that. Glenda says, I only hand-tied my quilts when I was young, only started quilting them on sewing machine 12 years ago, and only straight stitch, but I want to try different stitches after watching Rob at Quilting in the Man Cave. Great. I'm glad he's inspiring you for that. That's perfect. It is great to kind of step out of your comfort zone. Definitely start with something small, something manageable, and then work up from there. Laura says, I have double wedding ring quilt that I had hand quilted by some ladies in a retirement park. It's circa 1930 and made from dump cloth. Ooh, I've had it for years, but still need to bind it. Oh yeah, definitely need to bind that. Now you might want to see about having it appraised before you bind it, because the moment that you add any extra fabric to it, you are going to immediately adjust the quilt age of that quilt. Chloe says, wow, Judy, a ton of work. I hope your grandniece loves it. Love those fabrics, Tammy. Thank you. These are from my fat quarter stash. Not all of them are fat quarters, but they came off of my boards from back here. And that's one of the great things about having like your fat quarters and things like that, like handy where you can see them, because when you need fabrics to test run something like this, especially if you're only test running one block at a time or something, you probably aren't going to need enough fabric to warrant buying any new fabric. And these are fabrics that really didn't have an earmarked use already. So they now have an earmarked use, and whatever is left of them, Once I get done testing all these blocks, we'll go into making them into some kind of usable project. So they're not going to, the blocks are not just going to sit and the fabric's not going to just sit. It's going to get used. Chloe, she keeps it on her bed all the time as a topper so she doesn't wash it often. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You would hope that she would wash it enough to keep it clean, but not wash it so much that the fabric shreds. So I gifted my husband a quilt, probably a couple years ago now. And the quilt that I gifted him is actually on our bed right now. But we have a topper over the top of it because the dog gets on the bed. And he does not want any dog hair on that quilt. So there is dog hair on the quilt. Spoiler alert, dog hair does not stay where you put the dog hair. Dog hair goes where it wants. But there's not as much dog hair in the quilt. And it means that we have to wash it just a little bit less often. But it does get, it does get washed and it does get protected from that topper. So that helps out quite a bit. I'm just glad I don't have to wake up super early in the morning. I do have to get up in the morning. I have an appointment that is actually coming to my home, so I don't have to go and leave. That's, I think, the nicest thing that anyone's done for me in a really long time. They kind of have to because it's equipment, but it's kind of nice. I don't have to get up and leave and go anywhere. I think that'll be 2 days straight that I haven't gone anywhere. Tammy is so big, she has to take it to the laundromat to wash it. It's 120 by 120. Yes. That is definitely a laundromat quilt. I can't wash anything bigger than a small lap quilt. I have to take everything that is bigger than a small lap quilt to the laundromat. My washer is a portable washer, so it is not big enough for anything. Like, I can't wash a queen size quilt if I wanted to. It won't even smush enough to fit. I do have a 101 by 101 inch quilt that needs to be washed, or that needs to be quilted, and then it will need to be washed. It's going to have to go to the laundromat too. Laura says a friend gave it to me. Her grandma made it and didn't want it. Oh no. She said her grandma worked for a fabric maker and it was made from the fabric they were going to throw away. That's perfect purpose for a quilt. Maritza has joined the chat. Welcome in, Maritza. She says hola. So welcome in, sweetheart. Judy says I have 3 dogs and they aren't allowed in my bedroom, but the hair is always coming in there. Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, if you have a dog, you have dog hair everywhere. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter whether you have them in the room. Does not matter at all. That is what her grandma called it. That is so awesome. Dump cloth. Oh, dump cloth for, okay, they were going to dump it. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. My girlfriend is the executive housekeeper at a hotel. She washes all of my quilts there. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Oh, and I bet the hot water and all of that shrinks everything up nicely. Oh, I bet it does. I bet it does. And Judy, I agree. She says, Sean, that is awesome. Where can I get a girlfriend like that? Where can I get a boyfriend like that? Maybe I need to get a boyfriend like that. No. I don't know if the husband would approve. We'll go with that. All right. So this did not come out to be the full 6 inches, but we are going with what it is. And I think leaving these other strips at the size they came out would be our best option. So I'm learning a few of these are not, even though I've cut them at the right size, they are not sewing out the right way. So I think my adjustments are going to reflect that. So I think I'm going to adjust the size of the pinwheels, and I am going to adjust the size of these triangles. So let me make a couple of notes, you guys. Alright, so instead of cutting these 2 3/4, I'm cutting them 3 currently. I'm going to start cutting them 3 1/4. So we're going to erase the 3. That is no longer any good. This is also going to be cut 5 1/4 because I would rather trim down just a hair than to end up with them not large enough. Alright, we are going to leave these at 1 3/4. Or we're going to leave those at 2. That was my original marking, and I was adjusting it down earlier. I take all of the odd-shaped blocks and goofs and make pet or ugly quilts for my furry family friends. Perfect idea. These are good enough fabrics. These are pretty enough fabrics that I know a few people that would like these. So when it comes time for Christmas swaps, Christmas gifting, these are going to go in my Christmas gifts. They will be, like if at the Quilts Guilds or whatever, they're going to be the quilt swap options. So like if there's a gift or something that needs to be done, provided that these aren't like completely opposite colors to what the recipient would want, these may be like the table runner or whatever, may be the gift item. Laura says, I was thinking I should try to find some vintage cloth to bind it. I probably should have it appraised. It's about 100 by 100. Yes. Have it appraised, because the moment that you add new fabric to it, you reset the quilt age. Okay? So if it is from the 1920s or 1930s, you want to have it appraised and documented at that age so that you can document the added fabric and it doesn't shorten the age of the quilt. The quilt is only going to be as old as the youngest fabric in the quilt. So even if you find young fabric or old fabric to put in it, you have to make sure that that fabric is as old, if not older, than the fabric in the quilt. And you have to know what you're looking at to make sure that it is truly vintage. Because, I mean, this print right here looks kind of vintage, but I don't know exactly when it was printed. It could have been 1980. It could have been 2001. I do not know. I mean, it's one of those old floral looking prints. So I don't know when it was printed. Glenda says, Sean, I might make my fur baby small quilts and they go crazy. Oh, yes. Yes, the animals will go crazy over those quilts. Absolutely. All right, so I am cutting these. Originally, I cut them 7 1/2. If that's correct, because that is 6, 7 1/2. Okay. So I was going to cut them down just a hair to 7. I'm just going to leave them. They're going to stay at 7 1/2 right now. We're just going to have the overhang for right now. That is perfectly fine. It is not going to harm anything but my pride. We're going to harm my pride a little bit, and that is perfectly fine with me. Alright, I'm going to bring you guys over to the machine so you guys can see what I'm doing. There we go. Alright. Sean says I load one of the uglies on my long arm and close my eyes and go wild. See, I need a frame for my long arm to be able to do that. I have a sit-down long arm, and I'm quilting my State Fair quilt on it right now. And I will be honest, I have struggled with this quilt on this frame, on this long arm. I have had thread breakage. I've re-threaded, cleaned everything, oiled everything. I have done all of what is recommended to try, and it is fighting me. It is fighting me, and it's winning. Don't tell Handy Quilter. I do not have a direct line, so I think you're safe. I would love to have a frame. I don't have the room for a frame, though. In this room, I would literally have to take out my entire wall of my bookshelf that has my computer on it. I would have to take out my thread rack. I'd have to take out my bookshelf that has my AccuQuilt dies, my clock, my rulers, my books. I'd have to take out my other bookshelf. And I don't think this room is even big enough for even a small frame. Like, I could probably fit a 10-foot frame, but a 10-foot frame doesn't do me much good. because I regularly am making quilts larger than that. But I mean, it is an apartment. Marissa is here saying hi to Joyce, Chloe, and Glenda. Thank you, Maritza. I appreciate it. Glad you were able to stop in. Are you working on anything tonight, sweetie? Let's see. I caught my thread again. Let me put my needle down. And I apologize, you guys can't really see all of this because of the light. I have one more thing to get done on, let's see. What am I doing? Okay, so I've got one more thing to get done on the long arm, and then once that is done, I think I can actually put Beauty back in here and set Beauty up for embroidery and go ahead and start embroidering the Halloween quilt blocks. That is probably what's going to happen. I've got everything ready, I think, to do it. I've got all the threads pulled that I think that I'm going to need. Don't quote me, because I'm probably going to find more threads that I need. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment and have 2 cats. The only thing other than the long arm in my living room is a small sewing area. See, that's how I would probably do it too. So when I lived alone in college, I had a 2-bedroom, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and I actually set it up. Let me see. Okay, I'm cutting off my points. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to change. We're gonna try 5 1/4 next time. Okay. Yeah, I'm making notes, you guys. I just realized that I am trimming off my points, and I'm not happy with that. And it looks okay, like you don't notice it if you're not looking for it. But I'm now looking for it, so I will have one more test block to do at minimum. So I had a 2-bedroom apartment. I could afford it at the time. The economy was definitely different then. Gas was just over $1 a gallon. So, gas was a lot cheaper. But I had a 2-bedroom, a 2-bath, and my second bedroom was my sewing, crafting, whatever room. And I didn't have a long arm because I wasn't a quilter then. But I did have a mannequin, like a dress mannequin. I had all of that kind of stuff set up. I didn't have a lot of furniture. I had Kmart furniture. Oh, that was back when Kmart was still a thing, you guys. I had Kmart furniture. I had one of those TV stands that it's the wood boards, the particle board pieces, and then you have the plastic pipes that you spin and turn into each other to twist them together. And if you didn't assemble it completely with all of the wood boards, it wasn't sturdy. So you had to assemble it the way it was pictured, because otherwise your cat could knock it over. Yeah. Ask me how I know that one. But yeah, I had Kmart furniture. Oh, I was a mess. Alright, yeah, I'm trimming off my points here. And I really didn't intend to. The block doesn't show that in EQ, so I do have to make some adjustments to it. So I could trim the center block down, or I could just make the triangles larger. I think that's what I need to do, is make those triangles larger. So I'm going to write a test note. So I'm going to try a test at 5 1/2 instead of 5 1/4. Yeah, that's the next test that we're gonna do. How many ways can you test an EQ block? But I want this block to be right, and I want it to look right by the time it is done. So, all right, so I'm gonna bring you guys back over. Redo, no problem, you're learning, yes. This will be number 5. The next one will be number 5. All right, so this one is still over the 8 inches when it is this way, just slightly under here at the corners. But this time I'm not going to trim down these sides, okay? So we are going to leave them where they're at. They seem like they're actually more even this time than they were the last time. But we are going to put our triangles on here, and I'll smush them into place exactly where I want them here in just a minute over at the machine. And that's what we're going to sew on and press them out and see what we end up with. We're going to see if this size works better. So I kind of know where my sizing is now a little bit, because I trimmed this inner block to 6 inches. So if 6 inches works and these 2-inch strips work, then my these outer squares work as well. If not, then we have a little bit of figuring to do again. Let's see. Pam says, I've had my long arm in my living room in a few apartments. This one is the first one to have a bedroom big enough. Ooh, that is impressive. It's hard to find an apartment with a bedroom big enough for it. I used to love to shop at Kmart, but they closed them all down. Yes, they did, Glenda. So I remember when I first moved to Huntsville, Alabama, they still had a Kmart because we went and did family photos. I wanted family photos. I'd grown up with family photos of me and my brother, my mom and dad, done by the church. But I had grown up with family photos in my whole life. Like, everybody that I knew had photos of their whole family, and you post those, you put them in picture frames up on the wall, and then you have backups stuck in a photo album somewhere that nobody ever sees, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I wanted baby pictures of my son, and I'd had him in August, and I think it was, oh gosh, probably November or December maybe. Or maybe it was a few months later than that. I mean, he was still young. He was old enough to sit up on his own. But I don't remember exactly when we got to go do family photos, but we went to the photo shop inside Kmart. So I do remember doing that. So I know they were still around when my son was little. I don't remember exactly when they closed the store in Huntsville. But I do remember kind of being sad that they were closing, but they just never had anything good. Kmart Dollar Days and Blue Light Specials were the best. See, I didn't ever catch the Blue Light Specials. I was always too broke. I spent a lot of my time broke. Too broke to go shopping. So, like, I'm one of those thrifty shoppers. I find the deals, the specials, the one-time buys. Like, I find that kind of stuff. And I get the expensive stuff that way. Like, if it's the name brand or something, and that's just what I want, I will save up for it, and then I will buy it on special. When nobody else is wanting it anymore, and it's marked down so that they can get rid of it, that's when I buy it. I know how to shop for that kind of stuff. For the expensive stuff. Now, shopping for, fabric or thread or whatever, I buy that when I need it. I don't always shop the specials or the deals. I really should, but I don't. I don't bother with it. Not unless it's something for myself. If I'm shopping for someone else, it doesn't matter. If I'm shopping for myself, then I wait until, somebody tells me I need to just go ahead and get it. That's when I finally break down. All right. So I'm going to line this up. And this is well over the 8 inches. So we do have a completely correct size block now. So I can actually trim this down. And we will be okay to trim it down. The only caveat that I've got to that Let me see. I'm going to smush it down this way just a hair. I want to try to not trim my triangle units. I want to try to have those where they're going to end up in the quilt. And that's still not going to happen. Okay. It is what it is. It's not meant to be apparently for this block. So we will try this again. Not tonight, but we will try this again. This is not the end of this block or the block testing. There will be more block testing to come. All right. I'm just pulling off the pieces that I'm not going to use that are smaller than an inch so I can set them somewhere. Where did I set my 1-inch ones? I don't know where I set them, you guys. Did they end up on the floor? I guess not. No, they're not on the floor. I'll find them later. That's what I do. Very seldom pay full price for anything, says Linda. Yeah. There's no sense in paying full price for something when there's a perfectly good option to not pay full price. There's no sense in paying full price if you don't need it when the only option is full price. I don't pay full price for my batting. I wait until Black Friday sales and I buy a whole 40-yard bolt of batting, and I'm going to hope that 40-yard bolt is going to get me through the year. At the rate that I'm going, it's going to just barely get me through this year. Behind me on the shelf. No, because these are the two smalls too. Good call, but no, that's not where they ended up. Where? Oh, found them. They're underneath my paperwork. They're underneath my pattern. So they were there. They were just underneath my pattern. But good call. Good eye. Thank you. You're paying attention probably more than I am. Oh, that's funny. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. You might not have gotten it right, but you were darn close. It was somewhere silly. Somewhere very silly. All right. So, and because these are, I did sew this, but because these are small pieces, frequently you can just rip and pull out these stitchings. And I do go ahead and pull some of this out. Sometimes I don't bother. Sometimes I do. Kind of just depends on the mood I'm in and how much of a hurry I'm in. I'm not usually in too much of a hurry, but don't quote me on that, because there could be a day that I am. And I'd hate for you to be wrong on that one day. And I know I have throat on my shirt. All right. That is the last trim on this one. Let me pull this off, because that much I will do. Even if I don't pull these loose threads, I will at least pull out the stuff that I don't want in my bin, because it saves me from having to pull it out of there later and be frustrated by it. That's a frustration point for me. All right, so this is now, aside from this little piece here from the seam allowance, this poking around. All right, this is now an 8-inch block, so it's going to finish at 7.5 inches. So I'm just going to go up here and measure to make sure. Yes, that is right about 8 inches. There's a little difference between my ruler and the mat, and I was using the mat for the measuring. So that is an 8-inch block. So that is the finished size we're looking for, because it's going to finish at 7.5. So this is the correct size. Okay. So I've gotten, that is a success, but I'm not happy with it because I want my points here to show, and I don't want to be sewing off my points here. So I have a little bit of work to do. This is going to go down in size once I get it trimmed. So instead of trimming at 4.5, it's probably going to trim to like 4.25. These are going to go up in size. And these will probably stay the size that they are, and these will stay the size that they are. So I'm going to play with this some more. We're going to do another 1 or 2. Just depends on how many I think I need to do. But I'm not going to do them tonight. It is already 9 minutes till 10 here in Wyoming. So that is kind of the end of our time frame. So I'm not going to keep you guys on here longer. I'm actually going to go to bed here soon. I need to go take my medicine and get something to eat. Probably more tacos. But that is our kind of finished size. So this is going to be sashed, and there's going to be cornerstones, and everything is going to be put on point. So in the finished quilt, the pinwheel is going to be on point. These sashing pieces here are going to be, everything is going to be same fabrics. They're not this fabrics. But the fabric that is here is going to be the same in all the blocks. So between the sashings, if you can picture, actually, let me grab this block and I'll kind of show you. So you're going to see there's going to be sashing between these blocks, but this will kind of continue. This line right here from sashing piece to sashing piece will kind of continue. And you will have these cornerstone pieces, or these corner pieces, kind of sheltering the cornerstones that are here. So you're actually going to have a secondary pattern emerge between the cornerstones and these snowball pieces. So this is going to be a lot of fun once we can get the size 100% right and not have to edit it anymore. I mean, you guys can see laying the wrong size block on top. I want the consistency, and this has bigger cornerstones, bigger snowballs than what this block has. So, I've got to have it consistent. Even if it's, not 100% what I want, it does need to be consistent no matter what. And that's what I've got to get to before I start cutting into my client's fabric. Let's see. Judy says that she buys her batting by the roll from Marshall's Dry Goods. Ooh, that's the place I might need to look through. Usually 2 at a time. It lasts me about a year. Whenever I go to Illinois, I stop at Hancock's Paducah and pick up a couple king-size black battings. I don't blame you for that. Chloe says, good night. Good luck with the next block. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Joyce says, sweet dreams, Tammy and everyone. Thank you, Joyce. Glenda says, enjoyed. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Sean says, good night. I've enjoyed joining you. I'll try to catch another soon. I'm a driver and work 12 on and 12 off, so not too much time. No worries, Sean. And anytime you catch a replay, if you have any comments or whatever that you want to add, go ahead and leave those for me, because I do pay attention and I do comment back. So you'll know that I read and responded, even if I don't do it within the next 12 hours or 24 hours after you say anything, I will get there. Glenda says, going to be beautiful. I do agree. Dawn is saying, good evening, everyone. Well, I want to say thank you so much for you guys being here. Thank you for coming to join me on After Sunset Sunday. And I will be back on Tuesday night, hopefully with my schedule ready. So you guys are going to get to see what's going on for the rest of the year, so you can kind of plan when is most important for you guys to come hang out and catch up with me. Pam is saying, good night all, rest well. Thank you very much, Pam. You guys have a great evening.